Josh Brown, I'm Marky Billson. We were talking before, you mentioned, I had to interrupt you because we had to go what's known as a hard break. But Mike Trout is having this monster season, and you're right. When have you really heard about it? I mean, you hear about Soto, maybe you hear about Giancarlo Stanton because of the self-parodying calls that John Sterling makes. But yeah, tell me a little bit about the about what you were saying with Mike Trout.
Well, he's on track to having the greatest single season since 1923 Babe Ruth. It's completely out of control. He's hitting for average. He's got speed. He's got an elite glove. He is a five-tool player. He's got 23 homers already. And, I feel like as a baseball fan, when you tune into ESPN and even MLB Network, it's so, one-dimensional. All they care about is the guy that hits the homers. And so,
Good point.
You see graphics and little intros to breaks with pictures of Stanton and Judge, right? And it's just one or two teams that they're obsessed with. And I think they do a bad job marketing. Mike Trout is, and maybe it's because Mike Trout's not that exciting of a guy. So if you're a marketing, guy / agency, it's hard to maybe market that kind of person, perhaps. But it's kind of sad because he's the best baseball player I've seen in my lifetime, which is crazy because when I was a kid, I grew up watching Rick Henderson and Clint Wynn, and Trout is actually better than those guys, which is crazy. It sounds sacrilegious, but it's true.
Well, you were mentioning, I mean, if you look at, especially, the OPSs and, modern statistics and such, one of the, but here's Mike Trout in a major media market. I mean, he plays for the Angels, which is perhaps not as glamorous a team as, say, the Yankees or the Dodgers, but they have won the World Series in a more recent season than the Dodgers. And I mean, I was saying this off the air, it's the team of Naked Gun. It's the team of when they remade Angels in the outfield. They didn't use the Pirates. They used the, not surprisingly, I think they were then California Angels. Maybe it's because we don't know if they're the California Angels or the Anaheim Angels or the Los Angeles Angels or the Los Angeles Angels playing somewhere in the suburbs. But, and that's got to be a problem. But nevertheless, I mean, it stands a good point. I'll give you another example. So Miguel Cabrera's out for the year on the disabled list. How none of a story was it? We're talking about the last guy to hit for the Triple Crown. And, he's on the DL rest of the year. It got a blurb in the paper. That was it. And this is a distinct problem, I think. And I've spoken to you about this. I wonder if the end of the complete game really means the end of the quote-unquote stud pitcher. In Dad or Grandpa's era, we knew that Warren Spahn would probably be on the hill twice a week, and he'd be throwing 18 innings in all likelihood. Now we know that Clayton Kershaw will throw 6. And he's supposed to be the big star. That Justin Verlander ought to be Joe Namath, for crying out loud. I mean, he's Mr. Kate Upton. I mean, this is like Tom Brady here with Gisele Bundchen. Come on. And it's, wait a minute. Where's his laundry detergent ad? Why isn't he selling shaving cream? I mean, where is it?
We could beat this dead horse forever together, Marky. But a lot of it is these organizations have so much ridiculous money tied up in these guys, so they're overcompensating, right? They're overly cautious, overly sensitive to guys getting injured, and pitchers do get injured more these days. A lot of it's because of the radar gun. So you couple that with the ridiculous amount of money there being paid, and to your point, they're going to pull a guy after like 80 pitches in the 6th inning and the Saber nerds will say the third time through the order, a pitcher isn't as good. Well, I got 15, 20 years of data that says, okay, point taken, but a bullpen arm is in general not as effective as a starting pitcher. So you just take your best pitcher out of the game for a Peter Moylan kind of guy, and we see what happens like every night.
Well, I hear in the Appalachian League last night, Kingsport actually, I think, won a game 8-0, and it was 0-0 until the 8th. Now, that isn't because the starter ran out of gas. That's because they don't have, and admittedly, it's Appalachian League. Guys are playing their first games, this sort of thing, and, trying to get their own footing and all this. But there was a time where that would have been unthinkable, that you take out a pitcher throwing a shutout. And now, we don't care about the winning of the game so much as we care about you haven't overextended the pitcher's arm and all that. The problem is, we might accept that in the Appalachian League. It's getting to be that way in the National and the American as well. And I think it causes we don't know, pitchers may not know how to pitch, but I'm going to go send this now to Bartolo Colon, the former Brave, who was so ineffective last year. And I know that I talked to you about this. I said, did the Braves really need last year two soft tossers in Colon and Dickey? And because a soft tosser can be very effective. You throw somebody like Colon out there after, say, a fastball pitcher the night before who was throwing 95 and up, that's a tough adjustment to make. And I think the Braves had the problem right there is that they were, one time around, it's like throwing a changeup. What's this? Two times around, hey, they're throwing pus up here. And I think that was one of the things with Colon. And now that he's with the Rangers, I just want to ask you, though Colon, he just, won his 244th game. That passes Juan Martial on the all-time Dominican list. Next up at 245 is Dennis Martinez. If he wins another game, and I'm assuming that Colon will, he'll tie Martinez for being the all-time pitcher, all-time Latin American winningest pitcher. And just when you say, why do you think that it didn't work out last year with Bartolo Colon, and it is somewhat working out now with the Texas Rangers and the Minnesota Twins last year? Is it what I say, too many soft tossers last year with the Braves, or was there something else?
No, I don't think it was his velocity last year. It was his movement. He wasn't keeping the ball down. Because if you look at his velocity this year, it's very much the same story as it was last year. He just was throwing these straight meatballs last year. So Bartolo, he's no Verlander, he's no Chris Sale, but when he is on his game, he's throwing 88, 89, but with a little bit of movement and a little bit of thinking action. And he just, with the Braves, he just didn't have that at all. Actually, if you watched him, he was just giving up just dinger after dinger because he was just throwing, straight 88 mile an hour meatballs. Yeah.
And it was just pus. And it's the one game against the Padres, but other than that, But speaking of Latin pitchers, a guy that you've been a critic of in the past, but Julio Trout on Sunday went 6 2/3, no hit innings, came off the DL. What are your Teran? Yeah, he had been kind of up and down. He was a less than satisfying ace, I think. But now, let me ask you, why do you think Teran was so effective on Sunday? Was it the rest that he had, or is he a better pitcher than he was in previous seasons?
Well, his velocity's back up Sunday. He started off every year he starts off a little bit slow velocity-wise, but this year was very interesting. He was throwing like 88, 89 the first several starts. Then he goes to the DL, and then Sunday he's swinging 92, 93 consistently. So I think that is a huge factor in his performance Sunday. And I've been hard on him for sure for 3 years, Marky. But the thing about Teran is, even if Teran is going to be like a number 3, number 4 kind of guy, the money they have invested in is nothing. He's getting paid, $8 million million this year, 11 next
Mm-hmm.
year. I mean, he's such a bargain that if you keep him, you win. If you trade him, you win. And I keep saying every year that they should trade him, but at this point, it's almost like, I mean, you might as well just keep him because if you sell him now, you're selling maybe a little bit low, unless you wait for a few more great starts. There's been talk. I've read talk about the Braves possibly trading him, by the trade deadline. But I think they'll keep him. I think you're looking at him, Nuke, and Polk is the three main guys, and then you fill in the bottom two with, I don't know if it's Tukey or Pollard when he's ready. But the farm is just so stacked that they're going to have studs coming up later this year and next year as well.
Yeah, this is one of the reasons why I was saying, okay, does this mean that is 2018 the new 1991? I know that's saying a little bit much, but nevertheless. This being said, tell me about Fultonowit. You mentioned him and the staff. He was placed on the disabled list on Saturday, 10-day DL. But I want to ask, I mean, how big of a loss is that, do you think, to the Braves as they go on to play the lowly Baltimore Orioles this weekend?
Yeah, it's big, but at the same time, the Braves have, Gahara, and so they've got actually legit talent to supplement this kind of short-term DL, whereas maybe, recent years past, when a guy like Pulte, who is performing like Pulte's performing now, goes in the DL, it's just, a major headache, for 10 or 15 days. But so I don't think it's a huge loss, but Pulte, I tell you what, Marky, he's made me crow. I really, during the offseason, I wrote about it, I talked about it on my podcast, but I really didn't think too highly of Pulte. I really thought he was a bullpen piece, and I was wrong. He is just ridiculous. I mean, he almost threw a no-hitter in Boston.
Mm-hmm.
He's learned how to kind of harness that anger that he pitches with, which I think is great. It's like this Bob Gibson-ish, like just savagery, on the mound.
Yes.
For a while, he would really let things get to him, and he'd get mad at himself, and he would just lose the plot in the third or fourth inning. And now I think he's really harnessed that, which is really fun to watch for sure.
Yeah, you mentioned Bob Gibson, but I got to give the historical note. He was a Brave. He was the Braves pitching coach when they were the 82 NL West champs. I think people forget that. Now, and I always kind of was curious, Bob Gibson and all that. I mean, I knew it was because of Joe Torre and they were old Cardinals teammates. But I mean, Gibson was sort of like, give me the ball, I'm just going to throw it past people until he couldn't do it anymore. That was he was a thrower. He wasn't necessarily a pitcher. So how was he going to work with Gene Garber? That was something that I never really kind of understood. But anyhow, by the way, the Braves are coming off a loss to J.A. Happ. He threw into the ninth inning and such, but a two-game series with the Toronto Blue Jays. I was talking before, I had about a 2-hour rant. What's wrong with baseball on Monday when I saw this, the lack of attendance. And, we can talk about interleague play, but as I said here, and I know you being from Georgia, don't necessarily have the same feel that maybe people around here do in terms of rivalry with the Cincinnati Reds. But still, look, I understand the 1992 World Series was a rather entertaining World Series. Ed Sprague, the comeback that fell short when Otis Nixon tried to drag a bunt, all of that. But why is it every year Braves Blue Jays? Is this some sort of rivalry that I'm missing out on? Was the 92 World Series that big to you? Could you explain this to me?
I don't think so, Mark.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember that series. I remember, Kelly Kruger and, Joe Carter and Pat Porter, and all those guys. But it was definitely, growing up as a fan, I was 9 then, but growing up as a little Braves fan,
sure,
we hated the Phillies with a passion. But World Series, they hate the Blue Jays, and they talk about the Blue Jays like they're, the spawn of Satan because of that fight last year when I forget who it was for the Braves. They hit Joey Bats or something, and Kevin Pillar was involved, and the benches cleared. I think it was like May or June last year. It was like a two-game kind of ordeal. One night was a little bit of a scuffle, and the next night was a scuffle. And so there's a lot of your younger millennial Braves fans who just think, the Blue Jays are just the worst because of that.
No, that's a good point. But yes, every year that the Braves are playing the Blue Jays, now I admit that the Braves don't have a real, intrastate or inter-city rivalry. There's no Dodgers-Angels there. I understand that. But, and I know that baseball is also trying to do what they can, but this is one of the failings of interleague play, in my opinion, and all that. Perhaps, yes, the fight with the Blue Jays, that's something for the modern era, if you will. But again, how long does that last? Geography lasts. A bench-clearing brawl, do you really want me to go into, is it really going to be the second coming, that brawl of Roseboro Martial? Is it going to really stand that test of time? I'm not so sure, Josh Brown of Knockahoma Nation, that sort of thing. As we look here to the Braves going in, by the way, I wanted to ask you about that series. The other thing, though, coming up with the Orioles, again, this sort of seems to me like a failing of interleague play, if you will. There's one time where I could actually have seen where that could have been a decent rivalry, even when one team's up like the Braves and one team's down by the Orioles. I mean, I could see water cooler talk in, let's say, Virginia, where the Braves and the Orioles would have competed for a fan base. But now you have the Washington Nationals, where that's going to take away any Virginia fan base that the Orioles would have had. You've got to have, the Braves don't have their AAA team in Richmond anymore. I guess my question I want to ask you, Josh Brown, I don't think it's going away because we really don't have an American and National League anymore. I mean, it's all under the guise of Major League Baseball. But has interleague play kind of run its course for you?
Well, I was over interleague play like when it started.
Me too, yeah.
To me, I thought it was really fun, and it had this mysteriousness about it when the best team from the National League met for the very first time of the year, the best team in the American League, and they met for the World Series, and they didn't know much about each other, they never played each other, and the All-Star game back in the day meant something because the two leagues never played each other, and they didn't know much about each other. And so it was this mysteriousness of it, this competitiveness of it. And to me, like two leagues, it's fun. It's this thing. And so yeah, interleague play. I guess I don't hate the idea of it being every now and then. I felt like when it started, Marky, and I'll have to look at the details here, but when it started, it wasn't that often. It was just times a year, right? But now, yeah, I mean, it's like every week. Right? At least like some teams playing another team from another league. And so yeah, there's no league. We'll go back in the day. It was fun to be a National League guy. Yeah. Be an American League guy. It's a thing. It was like being a Ford or a Chevy guy. And now it's like NASCAR. And now everything's the same under the hood, so it doesn't matter. What kind of car you drive.
Old Chevy fans who are seeing NASCAR only win one race, Chevy only won one race so far this year might disagree, or how they're dominating IndyCar with the bow ties. But yes, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll stick with my lane of baseball. So.
No, it stands to reason. I've often said, if you're on NASCAR, Car of Tomorrow took away all the identity of cars, except for that little, logo on the bottom bumper that was difficult to see. It wasn't like watching a race from back when, say, in the 70s, where you could easily say, hey, look, that's a Chevy, that's an Oldsmobile, that's a Ford, and as they were going around the track, there wasn't that sense by any means of identification of the cars. And I do give you that. That's why, I'm hearing these things, and I guess I just want to say, I look at baseball, and I know that I may be sounding like a broken record, but I don't know what else I can do but to take this microphone, whatever influence I have, Josh Brown, whatever influence you have on Knockahoma Nation, and just preach until the public demands a change. And what I'm talking about is, it just seems to me, gimmicks. It seems like Manfred wants to institute the DH in the National League now. Where's the difference in styles of play? Why can't we enjoy two different styles of play? I'll even ask you this. How will the Mets, if you don't have two different styles of play, how will the Mets really compete against the Yankees in the long run, in the future? I mean, think about that for a second.
Yeah, it takes the fun out of it, for sure. I think it's funny to watch all the gimmicks, right? You know, Rob Manfred and MLB, I think they're, like, right now they're obsessed with launch angle. You know, they're actually implementing launch angle graphics in all the Major League parks. So I was at SunTrust Park, and you look at the scoreboard, and it literally has the guy's average next to his name and his on base. It'll have, like, his launch angle. like who cares? Like, did he go over the fence or not? Like, that, they're trying to appeal to kind of a small percentage, I think, of, like, your really political, you know, nerdy kind of guys, which is fine, but you're putting a lot of effort into something that's probably not going to sell tickets, in my opinion.
Well, baseball always had, and I think that big baseball fans always like statistics, but it almost seemed, you know, we talk about different cultures, and if the DH is universal, then yes, a culture, a style of play goes away for one that I don't particularly care for, to tell you the truth. But number two, it is, you know, you always had that sort of good old-fashioned country hardball fan versus the, let's call them George F. Will types or so. But the thing was, they could get along together, you know? Now it's as if, you know, we've got to get rid of the country hardball, like we're Eustace Tilley looking down on someone wearing overalls. I mean, that seems to be the culture now in baseball, and I think that that's why you have this 7 to 10% attendance decline.
Sure.
In all this.
The prices, right? So it's so expensive to go to a game.
Yeah. I've talked about this $114 premium seat. What used to be a $5 or even, heaven forbid, in the old days, $1 general admission ticket is now averaging the, you know, less than great seats, more than $32.
Right.
You know, I mean, and you start wondering here. I mean, if you live in Atlanta, geez, let's see here. If I brown bag it, don't buy a cap. I drive to the ballpark, whatever gas I've got, sit in the cheap seats, buy the $18 parking where I got a shuttle in, I'm still at $50 for just myself. Watching a game on TV starts looking pretty good now.
Exactly. I mean, look at like the average income is kind of, it hasn't changed that much since like 1990.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we could have a whole discussion about inflation, right? Especially with sports. And I think, I don't know if some NFL teams have kind of answered this call, but I know baseball has. And listen, there are $12 Braves tickets, but yeah, to your point, if you want to sit in a really good seat, I mean, on top of that, parking $18-20, a beer is $10.
Yeah.
$10 for a beer, for like a Coors. Not even like a good beer, Marky. A bad beer. I'm sorry if Coors is your sponsor.
TJ, no, that's fine. TJ Jefferson, to be honest with you, they're not, and I've never liked the brand that much either. It's a great movie in Smokey and the Bandit, and now the entire premise is, it is, why is Coors not, why do they have to go to Texarkana? I don't get, you know. Anyhow, you get that here, Josh Brown of Knockahoma Nation. I'm up against it here, and so we're going to have to take a break. But I got to ask you here, just for old time's sake, we always enjoy doing this. Gabe Kapler of the Phillies. I was doing some background. Did you read the story in the off season that Terry Francona's son was claiming that Kapler was anti-military, and even when they worked together on the Dodgers, because Francona is very pro-military, was withstanding insults and all that because of his military background. Have you heard of that?
No, but that makes me like Gabe Kapler even less.
Yes, yeah. Now, I know that it was an article in the New York Daily News, which is hardly, a real right-leaning newspaper, but if you go with that, and it wasn't really picked up, which might be more of modern media, and admittedly it was one man's claim. It was Francona, and his son. But there was
even a man, though. I mean, that's not just one man. That is the man.
Yeah, it was Terry Francona's son. Okay, and there was that, and I just wanted to see if you had, saw that. Surprisingly little coverage of that, and
wow.
we kind of like.
I'm gonna have to troll him even more in my podcast.
There you go. Check that out. I just wanted to see, but no, I just want to ask this: Braves. I mean, you were in the Talk Stars. Albies, Freeman leading in All-Star voting. Let me ask you this: what could possibly derail the Braves as we head to the halfway point in the season?
Oh goodness, great question. Honestly, I don't know. They're sustainable,
Yeah.
It would be injuries, in my opinion, Marky. I mean, something weird happens and a couple guys go down, which could happen, right? It's seen it happen before. Baseball's weird. Injuries, but if injuries don't happen, they're freakishly sustainable, in my opinion.
And guess what? They've had injuries and they've got a 3-game lead. Josh Brown, Knockahoma Nation, back with our second hour after this.